Drafting in the NBA is an imperfect science based on an unpredictable combination of projection, data, film review, and overall talent of the player, and while there does always end up being a relative consensus regarding where certain players should be drafted, we always see plenty of examples of players falling short of the expectations that they come in with. All of these players definitely need patience in order to allow them to develop fully, but you can also typically tell early on if a player has any chance of reaching his potential or not. And that brings us to today's video. Today we'll be discussing 5 teams that are already starting to regret their selections in the 2025 NBA draft based on early return compared to the picks made around them. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but it also very much appreciated. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first team we'll be discussing today that is already starting to regret their draft pick is the Phoenix Suns, who selected Khaman Maluach 10th overall. In a draft class that is looking as loaded as any class we've seen in recent memory, and with so many rookies drafted around him that are making immediate impacts on their new teams, it's definitely hard not to be disappointed by a player who can't even see the floor at all, playing a position that his team is relatively weak at. The Suns have done an outstanding job bouncing back after a horrifically tragic ending to last season, and this new-looked squad is back in the playoff mix in the West, but the main keys to their success have come from their perimeter play. Newcomer Dillon Brooks is bringing a tough defensive identity to the group, Devin Booker is still their leader and primary playmaker, and then they've got a ton of shooting throughout the rotation on the wings as well. But in the paint, you would think there would be room for a top 10 pick to get some tick here and there. Mark Williams has been a starting solid center for them and has been a terrific anchor inside, but he doesn't even play traditional starters minutes, averaging just 24 minutes per game. Nick Richards has been their typical backup center, but has also been injured for the last few weeks, and in his absence, Maluach still has not been able to crack the rotation, with the team instead opting to play a lot of small ball lineups with Oso Ighodaro serving as their small ball center. Maluach has really only stepped on an NBA court for garbage time minutes halfway through his rookie season, which for someone taken 10th overall is a tough look. It was understood that Maluach coming in was a very raw talent who needed patience and development to truly reach his potential, but it's hard to develop without any real reps against NBA level competition. If the Suns were so focused on staying competitive, then a rookie more suited to produce right away may have been a better option, and with players like Cedric Coward and Derek Queen drafted immediately in the few picks after their selection of Maluach over those guys, it's looking like a regret in hindsight. The next team already starting to regret who they drafted in 2025 is the Chicago Bulls, who selected Noah Asenge 12th overall. Noah came to the NBA after playing in Germany last year, and again, he was another player who may not have had the most honed-in skill set, but he had the size, length, physical tools, and athleticism that NBA general managers love to try to tap into and strike gold with. He's a very fluid athlete who moves well at the power forward position. He was a strong finisher around the rim overseas. He rebounds well, and he thrived in transition, so the Bulls loved the energy that he brought, and they used their lottery pick on him. Unfortunately for him though, he landed on today's list not because he's necessarily playing badly or even because of anything within his own control, but instead it's because he's had the most unfortunate injury luck to start a career. The Bulls sent him down to the G League to start this season, as they didn't immediately view him as ready for NBA minutes, but down in the G League, he actually played really well, putting up about 23 points and 9 rebounds per game in 4 games with the Windy City Bulls. And then when he did get called back up to Chicago, he made just 2 brief appearances in garbage time before suffering a season-ending shoulder injury. Noah Asenge can very much still become an excellent NBA player moving forward. I'm by no means denying that, but he was a lottery pick whose first season in the NBA has pretty much become a complete wash. Derek Queen was the player drafted immediately after him, and he's been one of the most productive rookies all season, looking like a triple-double threat at the center spot. So Chicago may be kicking themselves a bit on this one seeing that, especially knowing that Nikola Vucevic is gone this summer. The next team we'll discuss that may already be regretting their draft pick is the San Antonio Spurs, who drafted Carter Bryant 14th overall. Bryant was the last lottery pick made last year, and even at the time it was viewed as a slight reach in some draft circles. Bryant was the safe, low-ceiling but high-floor prospect, who played on a very good Arizona team in college, but was also just a role player on that team. He averaged just 6 points and 4 rebounds per game in his lone college season, and while I'm by no means someone who views college production as the end-all be-all for translating to the NBA game, it's also tough to take that aggressive of a swing on someone with this specific pick, as valuable as the 14th pick is. Bryant profiled as the ideal 3-and-D mold, with outstanding size at 6'8", and at Arizona, he made 37% of his threes, which is respectable, but it's closer to the average marker than it is to the good marker. Another red flag was that he was only taking 2 threes per game at Arizona, so with that little volume, it's always going to be tough to judge what's sustainable and what isn't. Well, unfortunately for the Spurs, the 3-ball has not quite translated to the professional game, and his offense as a whole has been a struggle. Bryant isn't much of a creator on the ball. He's not going to operate as a secondary ball handler, and on the season so far, he's averaging just 2 points per game, shooting 35% from the field and 26% from 3. His work on the defensive end is what continues to get him opportunities to play spot minutes here and there, but his lack of output on the offensive end is why he hasn't been able to truly crack the team's rotation full time. The Spurs knew coming into this season that they were preparing to make a run at the playoffs, so I see the logic behind drafting the supposed NBA-ready safe talent, but lottery picks are just too valuable to use on low-ceiling players with glaring flaws. The next team that's already starting to regret who they drafted in 2025 is the Portland Trail Blazers, who took Yang Hansen with the 16th pick. Hansen was viewed as second-round talent for pretty much 99% of the pre-draft process until the NBA Draft Combine went down. At the Combine, Hansen dominated the scrimmages, showing off an incredibly intriguing skill set as a 7'1" center with incredible basketball IQ, advanced passing talent, incredible footwork in the post, and shooting range out to the three-point line. In today's era of NBA basketball dominated by Nikola Jokic, we're seeing general managers obsess over trying to find the next Nikola Jokic, and quickly, after those combine scrimmages, Hansen's draft stock started to skyrocket. But even in that sense, the conversations were only about him maybe sneaking into the first round as a later pick. Hansen wasn't even one of the prospects invited to the green room on draft night because nobody expected him to be a mid-first rounder. And when it got announced that the Blazers took him 16th, he had to come walking down to the stage from the crowd. Hansen's rise was an incredible story, and I would love to see him work out at the NBA level, but as we're now seeing, there was a reason why he was only pegged as second-round talent in the first place. Hansen is another rookie struggling to earn any kind of significant minutes in year one, and unlike some of the other players we've discussed, the reasoning for that with him is because he is struggling to adjust to this level of play. Hansen is an incredibly slow-footed player and gets absolutely abused on the defensive end, which for a center is a coach's worst nightmare. In today's NBA, if you're going to be a negative on the defensive side of the ball, at center, you need to be able to serve as a hub of offense, and Hansen is quickly learning that there's a difference between combine scrimmages against G League level talent and the speed of play against NBA players. He's averaging just 2 points per game, shooting an abysmal 28% from the field and 15% from 3. He's turning it over more often than he's dishing out assists, and if the Trailblazers had the chance to do over their 16th pick, they would likely want to take advantage of that opportunity. And finally, the last team we'll be discussing that may already be regretting their draft pick is the Brooklyn Nets, who took Ben Saraf 26th overall. The Nets had one of the strangest drafts I've ever seen in 2025, as they had a record-setting 5 first-round picks. They used all 5 of them, and they came away with a lot of overlapping talent. They used their lottery pick on Yegor Diomin, whose appeal came as a tall point guard with impressive playmaking talent at his size and a budding perimeter jumper. They then also selected Nolan Traore at pick number 19, who, you guessed it, is another point guard but with more of the traditional quick twitch on the ball operating skills you would come to expect from the position. There was no need for them to target a third guard whose primary appeal was as a playmaker, but alas, they did it anyway, with that being exactly what happened with this selection of Ben. Ben was the most obvious redundant pick ever, and even on draft night, most onlookers were scratching their heads wondering what the heck Brooklyn was doing. Hindsight could have possibly gone in their favor if Ben Saraf came out playing well to start his career, but instead, his role has gotten smaller and smaller as the season has gone on, due to poor play on the court, and hindsight is telling us that Brooklyn probably should have targeted someone else with a different playstyle with this pick. Saraf is averaging 5 points and 2 assists per game, turning it over nearly as often as he's assisting it, and he's shooting just 37% from the field and 26% from 3. The Nets had a chance to do something great with all of these picks in a strong draft class, but instead, it's looking like an opportunity that they're going to look back on with regret in many instances. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think the biggest regrets of the 2025 NBA draft are. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.